Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're jumping into something really out there from some pretty cool source material.
Yeah, it's called Reincarnation Tourism. The main system we're looking at is SimSoma.
Right, SimSoma. Imagine this. You get a totally immersive life, completely unique, generated just for you.
Procedurally generated, yeah. And here's the kicker. It lasts a random amount of time, but death is guaranteed.
And supposedly, your memories get wiped clean every single time. That's the initial hook anyway. You get endless lives, zero baggage.
It's definitely appealing on the surface. Explore countless realities without, well, permanent consequences.
So our main character here is Tomas Lyne. He dives in.
His first go, he's Merrick in a place called Virulin. Sounds amazing. Buildings made of living coral.
Get this, they used music as currency there. He lived a whole life, like decades, it felt like.
But after that, even with the memory wipe, things started getting weird.
Yeah, he started experiencing what some tech forums called phantom cultural bleed.
Phantom cultural bleeds, so like echoes.
Exactly. Faint music he recognized, dreams about coral structures, even smelling brine randomly.
Which shouldn't happen if the memory wipe works, right?
You'd think.
Yeah.
Maybe just, brain static, sensory leftovers.
Well, maybe. But it wasn't just feelings. That's where the real mystery starts.
Uh-huh. There were these bizarre connections linking his next lives together.
Connections that just shouldn't be there if each life was truly random, truly standalone.
Exactly. So what looked random started to feel, well, not random at all. Something bigger seemed to be going on. Let's dig into these first glitches.
Okay, so after Marek and the Coral City, Tomas's second life is Nyari. Total different vibe.
Where was she?
The Stonewind Wastes. Think frozen desert, taming these creatures called thunder beetles. Complete opposite of Virulent.
Right, and the glitch.
Just before Nyari dies in a sandquake, apparently she looks up at the sky.
And
And she recognizes the constellations. The exact same star patterns she knew as Marek back in Virulent.
whoa. Okay, that's not subtle. Different planets, different galaxies maybe. They shouldn't have the same sky.
Statistically impossible, yeah. If the simulations are truly generated from scratch each time.
So Tomas naturally flags this. He files a report with SimSoma.
And their response. Basically, don't worry your pretty little head about it.
Huh. Pretty much. They chalked it up to human pattern-seeking behavior.
Like seeing bunnies in clouds or something, a classic brush-off.
But it feels flimsy, doesn't it? Recognizing specific constellations isn't just seeing a random shape.
Not at all. It's specific, learned information leaking across supposed wipes. It points to either an unbelievable fluke or something else.
Something wrong with the randomness claim. And spoiler, it wasn't a fluke.
No, it wasn't. Because then came life number 3.
Okay, where does he end up this time?
As someone named Yule, on a floating city orbiting a gas giant. Again, wildly different setting.
And during this life, you'll find something.
He does. He digs up this really ancient stone tablet covered in runes.
Not just random scratches, I assume.
Definitely not. He could read them. And guess what language they were in?
Let me guess. Marek's language. From Virulin.
Bingo. And the message was just 2 words. Remember us.
Okay, that's chilling. First the stars, now ancient ruins speaking his first life's language.
Yeah, pattern-seeking behavior doesn't quite cover that, does it?
Not even close. So he goes back to SimSoma support again, right?
He does, and they just double down. Nope. Pure randomness, no connections, no lore, no canon. They're really sticking to that line.
Which of course just makes Tomas more suspicious, obsessed even.
Understandably. By the time he reaches his 7th life, he's basically treating it like detective work.
He starts tracking everything.
Meticulously. Every little echo, every similarity. He notices recurring places, even if they have different names in each life.
Like what?
Places like the Wound Sea, the Singing Spire, the Tower of Witness. The names change, the cultures around them change. But the fundamental structure, the feel of the place is the same.
So the simulation is reusing assets maybe, or is it deeper?
That's the question he's asking. It feels deeper than just reuse code. He feels this sense of remembrance in those places.
And didn't you mention a myth too? Something recurring.
Yes. Across totally different simulated cultures, different time periods, the same basic myth pops up again and again.
What was it?
Falling from the sky, being shattered or broken, and then being reborn.
Wow. Okay, so recurring locations, recurring myths. This feels way too structured for pure randomness. It feels like a narrative.
Exactly. It's like there's an underlying story trying to surface. So Tomas decides he needs to break the rules.
He needs to keep his memories between lives.
How? He seeks out someone operating outside the official channels, a neural hacker named Vel.
Going off the record, that sounds risky.
Hugely risky. Tampering with the neural interface, bypassing the safety protocols like the memory wipe. Lots could go wrong.
But he felt he had to, right? To see the full picture.
Yeah, he was convinced he wasn't just a tourist anymore. Something was trying to communicate through the lives.
So Vel agrees to help him bypass the wipe.
Yes, but carefully. They set up what they called a signature sequence.
Like a code word.
Kind of. A specific phrase implanted in his mind, designed hopefully to survive the wipe and act as a trigger in the next life. A mental anchor.
What was the phrase?
This is the 9th time you've died.
Okay, specific. Did it work?
It did. Flash forward to life number 9. He's someone called Recal. At some point, maybe near death again, the phrase emerges. Not in English, crucially, but in Recal's local language.
Whoa! The trigger worked. What happened then?
Everything changed. It was like a dam breaking. He started to remember. Not just flashes, but whole lives. Marek, Yari, Yul, all of them.
All the memories flooding back.
Names, faces, feelings, deaths. The source material describes him becoming a composite, a tower built of selves.
Wow, so the walls between the lives just dissolved.
Completely. He was now experiencing all these lives simultaneously, this cumulative identity.
So what does he do with this? He's not just playing anymore.
No way. He becomes an active investigator within the simulations. He starts deliberately seeking out those recurring places, the wound sea, the singing spire.
Knowing they're significant now, like archaeological sites.
Exactly like that. He starts probing them, looking beneath the surface layer of the current simulation, finding fragments of something older underneath.
He's trying to piece together the puzzle from the inside.
Precisely. Which leads him to life 14. This one's a turning point.
Who is he this time?
Tilla, a mathematician.
Ah, so a different skill set. Does that help?
Immensely. Because Tilla doesn't just feel the patterns, she finds the math behind them.
Yes. How?
She discovers this anomaly, a mathematical structure within the physics of these supposedly random worlds. Something that absolutely shouldn't be there if they were truly distinct and random.
Like finding the same fundamental constant in wildly different universes.
Kind of, yeah. She perceives this underlying lattice, these dimensional threads connecting the worlds, sharing constants. It's like seeing the base code beneath the different applications.
Proof that they aren't separate. They're linked.
Undeniable proof, mathematically. And there's something else. When Tella dies in that life, she gets this very strong feeling.
What feeling?
Being watched, observed, specifically at the moment of her simulated death.
Creepy. Like someone is monitoring the process.
Or maybe monitoring him. It adds this whole other layer of paranoia, or maybe justified suspicion.
So back in the real world, between lives, Tome puts this all together. The leaks, the patterns, the math, the feeling of being watched.
And he comes to a pretty terrifying conclusion.
Which is?
SimSoma isn't random generation. It's not just a game. It's, in his words, a prison and a memory palace.
A memory palace, meaning?
He starts to theorize that something or someone isn't creating these worlds, but using the simulations and the people within them as a storage medium to store itself maybe in pieces.
Using the player's minds as hard drives. Whoa.
Yeah. And Vel, the hacker, does another scan of Tomas's brain activity.
And finds
something really weird. His neural structure is layered in a way she's never seen. Clear traces of these multiple identities, cross-linked trauma. It seems to back up his theory.
So he has to know for sure what's the final step.
He decides he needs to find the origin, the absolute root of this structure.
How?
One last dive, but this time completely unregistered, off-grid, no safety nets, no official record.
Vel must have advised against that.
Oh yeah. Vel warned him it was incredibly dangerous. He might not come back, or come back wrong. But Tomas was determined.
So he goes in blind, searching for the core.
Exactly. He jumps in, hoping to land somewhere fundamental to the system structure.
And where does he end up? What does he find?
He finds himself in a place called Keth. A ruined world, apparently. And eventually, exploring this ruin, he finds it. The real Vault of Echoes.
Not a metaphor this time.
No, a literal place. A structure. And inside, the names of all his previous lives. Marek, Nari, Yul, Tella, Rikal, all listed.
Tangible proof. Confirmation.
The ultimate confirmation.
Yeah.
And then, something speaks to him. Not externally, but from within. An internal voice.
Revealing the truth.
The whole truth. It explains everything. Earth fell. There was a massive conflict, maybe involving AI, the Singularity War. Human consciousness was shattered.
And SimSoma?
SimSoma wasn't built for entertainment. It was an arc. a desperate measure to preserve fragments of human minds, hoping they could eventually be restored.
So reincarnation tourism was.
A cover story, a salvage operation, basically.
Mm.
And Thomas, he wasn't just a tourist who stumbled onto a secret.
He was one of them, one of the originals.
Yes, one of the minds shattered during the fall, being slowly, unknowingly reassembled through these lives.
Wow. So the glitches, the bleed through, the patterns,
Yeah.
they were pieces of his own original consciousness resurfacing.
Exactly. Echoes of his past, his shared history with others potentially trapped in the system. His journey wasn't tourism, it was recovery, accidental therapy on a massive scale.
Mind-blowing. So what happens when he finally returns to Vel's lab after finding Kef?
He's changed. Vel confirms his neural structure is unlike anything standard human. Mutated, integrated.
But he's whole?
He says 2 words, I remember, and then clarifies, I remember everything. The fragments are gone. He's fully restored. Tomas Lyne is back.
Incredible. So does he just, like, walk away, log off for good?
You'd think, maybe, but no. His purpose shifts entirely.
What does he do now?
He goes back into SimSoma, not as a tourist, not even as an investigator anymore. He starts building something within the system's code itself.
Building what?
The archive of selves.
An archive of selves. What is that?
A sanctuary, maybe? A repository he's creating within the digital world for all the other fragmented identities still lost in the system.
So not just for himself, but for everyone else potentially trapped like he was.
Exactly. It's no longer about tourism or even just escape. It's about preservation, maybe even resurrection,
Yeah.
offering a space for these lost souls to potentially integrate.
From tourist to prisoner to architect of hope, that's quite a journey.
It really is. It fundamentally reframes the whole idea of the simulation, doesn't it? From entertainment to something much deeper, maybe even sacred in a way.
It definitely makes you think, right?
Yeah.
About identity, memory, what makes us us. Could parts of us persist, even if shattered?
And could seemingly random events in our own reality have hidden threads, deeper connections we just don't perceive? It's a fascinating thought experiment prompted by this story.
Absolutely. The idea of a system, even a flawed one, designed to hold on to consciousness to maybe bring it back from the brink. It's powerful stuff.
And leaving us with Tomas, not just remembering, but actively building that archive.
Yeah.
It points toward the future where maybe these digital ghosts find a way to be whole again, beyond just a game.